Part 65. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 646. Early in the morning, when Han Jian opened his eyes, he found that Yates was gone. He got up and moved his shoulders. The pain made his sleepiness dissipate quickly. He went to the toilet and could only wash his face. Han Jian shouted and asked which one was. The towel used to wipe his face looked as if Yates was dead and there was no movement at all. Not caring about that much anymore, I went to the living room with a white towel. Yates was in the living room, holding the computer and drinking coffee. He glanced at Han Jian who was standing at the door, and then continued to stare at the computer, moving his fingers from time to time. Han Jian walked behind the sofa curiously. In total, this woman was playing chess here early in the morning. When Han Jian turned around to get the water, Yates was left with a veteran, who was killed and became a bear commander, and the other party even gave a humiliating expression. Seeing this, Han Jian, who was holding the water glass, smiled. "I said something to you last night and you feel uncomfortable. Why don't you come here to prove that you are not stupid?" A reminder appeared on the screen that the other party invited another round. Yates accepted it without thinking. This time he lost even more miserably. He was teased by the other party from beginning to end. Yates was so angry that he gritted his teeth. At this time, Han Jian stretched out his finger and pointed. "Avatar on the screen. It would be better if you find another man next time. That way it can end faster. You don't have to worry about it." Han Jian shrugged, put down his cup and went downstairs. Not long after, Mr. Han's laughter and Rottweiler's growl were heard from downstairs. Yates continued to play chess without believing in evil. This time, the other party was even more harsh and spoke harshly. He teased her and asked Yates if such a beautiful girl needed a teacher. Hands-on, mouth-to-mouth teaching. Guaranteed rapid progress. Yates replied, "Go home to your mother," but the text was blocked. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Han Jian, who was lying on the sofa watching Animal World with Rowena, heard a scream from the second floor. He reached out and patted Rowena on the big head and smiled. "Your mother is being bullied very badly. Do you want to go up and help?" Rowena sneezed at Han Jian and sprayed saliva on Han Jian's face. He stood up helplessly to wash his face, and then waved his fist at Rowena. However, he was fascinated by the TV and ignored him at all. Han Jian's threat. Walking up to the second floor, looking at Yates whose hair was already messed up, he couldn't help but laugh. "What? Someone got through the computer and beat you up?" Yates stared at Han Jian without saying a word. Han Jian sighed, walked over to Yates and sat down. He took the notebook and invited him to play a game. The other party readily agreed and started typing again to tease Han Jian. Han Jian smiled and put his hands on the keyboard. "I typed a few words. Knock your head sideways." Yates leaned his head and whispered. "He's very powerful. Sharp." After saying this, Han Jian started typing to provoke the other party. "Father and son game, call daddy if you lose. Eldest daughter? Hee hee." Han Jian started to move the chess pieces. When he was free, he cut the screen to read the gossip about Wu Qingxi. After about 10 minutes, the opponent clicked on surrender. Han Jian laughed and watched the opponent prepare to hob. Han Jian did not hesitate. "Say dad this time and continue to invite. It's not the other party's fault, it's because the other party thought Yates was still playing. Now it's obvious that the person has changed and the other party is no longer careless." Han Jian is no longer cutting the screen, talking about the knowledge of chess while playing chess. Unconsciously, Yates was lying on Han Jian's shoulders, watching the game on the computer seriously. When Yates felt that Han Jian was about to lose, he suddenly exerted force, step after step, and every second. There was no hesitation at all. Slowly, the opponent got into Han Qian's rhythm. After a while of exchange of chess pieces, the opponent surrendered again. Han Qian turned his head and looked at the pretty face close at hand and smiled. "You come." Only then did Yates feel that the gesture was too ambiguous. He sat up straight and grabbed the computer. He looked at the other party's invitation and fell into deep thought. After a moment, he said softly, "What time will you go to Nuanuan?" Han Qian, half lying on the sofa, said softly, "Let's go at noon." "It's too early. She's busy and doesn't have time to talk to me. Let's have dinner together at noon. I want to go to the 8th district in the afternoon. You threw away my clothes yesterday. Where are the new clothes?" Yates frowned and replied, "You woke up blind." Han Qian stood up and went to look for clothes. Yates waved his fist at Han Qian's back and then typed on the keyboard. "My husband and I are going for morning exercise. Goodbye, eldest son." No matter what the other party said, Yates turned off the computer and got up and went to the bedroom. When he walked into the bedroom, Han Qian happened to be taking off his shorts. Yates didn't react, but Han Qian was startled. Yates walked into the closet and took out his clothes, and then whispered to Han Qian, "Do you want to go out or change here? Is there a difference?" "I'm going to change here." Han Qian picked up his clothes and stood up to leave. What happened to this era? Why are women more gangsters than men? When Yates came out, she put on a bright red dress with the skirt slightly above her knees. Before Han Qian could speak, she pulled Han Qian downstairs. After closing the door and leaving this somewhat dirty apartment, Han Qian turned to look at the two dogs sent to the door and said softly, "What should they do?" "Pet Park will pick you up at 10 o'clock. Don't worry about me. There is an automatic feeding machine at home. Go downstairs and have breakfast. I will touch up your makeup and then take you to buy clothes. I am the secretary now. As the boss, you should obey. The secretary is planning your schedule." Without giving Han Qian a chance to refuse, he went downstairs to the breakfast shop. Breakfast was all Yates's decision. While putting on makeup, Yates reported Han Qian's schedule for the day. "After dinner, I will take you to buy a set of clothes. The money will be deducted from Yasheg's account. After looking at the clothes, I will go to the Ford store to choose a car for Sul Yang. I will also use Yasheg's account, and then go to the hospital to change the bandage. It will be almost noon by then. Go to Changxiang and see Nuan Nuan. You can choose to have lunch with Nuan Nuan. After that, you have to report back to the general department. Minister Yang called you several times this morning. It would be better for you to go there and catch up. Leave Glory and go to District 8 before getting off work." Han Qian, who was just about to eat dumplings, frowned and whispered, "Do you have to finish your work in one day? Can it be divided into 2 days? Yates put down his lipstick and smiled, squinting at Han Qian, then took out his tablet, took a look at it, and said softly, "I'll pick you up at 8:30 tomorrow morning." "Stop." "Got it, let's talk about tomorrow's matters tomorrow." For a moment, he regretted letting Yates be his secretary. This woman was a professional secretary. She would make full arrangements for Han Qian's development. After dinner, he went to buy clothes. Because Han Qian was injured, Yates went back and forth. He walked in and out of the dressing room with his suit, not caring about the strange eyes of the clerk or Han Qian's embarrassment, covering his underwear with both hands. The last sky blue floral suit was put on Han Qian, and Yates nodded with satisfaction. "That's it? My Mr. Han, there is no need to dress so formally. Your appearance is too gloomy once you get serious. This is good." Looking at himself in the mirror, Han Qian saw for the first time a suit that was not a solid color. The sky blue floral pattern looked like a rural quilt in the 1960s and 1970s, but it looked really good on him. After leaving the Yates checkout, I drove straight to the Ford store. Yates chose a Mercedes-Benz E300. In Yates's words, her personal opinion of this car was just 3 words. Upstart. It's better to buy a Mercedes-Benz. It looks better and consumes much less fuel than BABA. Moreover, Suliang doesn't drive a BABA model. Han Qian didn't say anything. Anyway, it doesn't count. He signed and paid and told the salesperson. Bring the car to the parking lot at the front entrance of Honor Group before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and hand the key to the front desk. If it takes more than 1 minute, she will refund the money. They also told the sales consultants that if they dared to make loans behind the scenes, they would be in big trouble. It was already 11 o'clock when he left the Ford store. He drove Han Qian to have a drink. When he passed by the cold drink shop, Yates bought 2 cups of milk tea. Han Qian took it and was about to open it. Yates reached out and grabbed Han Qian's wrist and said angrily. Road. Straight man? For Nuan, you can't go empty-handed during lunch, right? Although you have been together for 3 years, you still have to have small surprises and accidents. You think it is not necessary, but Nuan will think need. Han Qian felt bad. He really wanted to slap himself. Why would he let Yates be his secretary if nothing happened? It turned out that Yates was right. When Nuan acted very calmly when he saw Han Qian. When he saw the milk tea, when Nuan stood up and walked forward, pointing at the milk tea and smiling. Give it to me? Acridine. Has Mui's brain opened up? Did you go to the hospital to take medicine last night? It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be. Han Qian glared at Wen Nuan. Are you going to drink? Drink. Let's go and eat. Today the cafeteria made braised fish and crab stewed with pumpkin. I heard there's also small abalone. I know you won't eat it, but I will. Nuan knew the essence of how to deal with Han Qian. He was not allowed to speak, and he would not refute after everything was settled. In the cafeteria, Han Nuan was holding a crab in his hands, and Han Qian reminded him in a low voice. Be more ladylike. Nuan glanced at Han Qian and curled his lips. What's a lady? I'm a married woman, and I still care about what others think of me. I'm not a lady in front of my husband, so outsiders are nothing. Tell me, why are you here with me today? Han Qian looked at the crab stewed with pumpkin on the plate. Where is the pumpkin here? Isn't this just crab stew? He had no appetite at all, so he took a few bites and said softly. Nuan, I want you to leave Changxiang and sell your shares to the Lin family. Nuan glanced at Han Qian, then picked up the whistle, dug out a spoonful of crab roe and fed it to Han Qian, squinting and smiling. Be good, eat. Han Qian pressed his lips tightly and leaned back. Nuan stretched out his arms around Han Qian's neck and said angrily. If you don't want to eat, we won't have to talk about this. Give me some. I ate the crab roe. And then got scammed. I have no objection. You can discuss it with Lao Wen. Han Qian was so angry that he wanted to beat her. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 647. Sell your shares to the Lin family at a high price, and then acquire the Huishan Group at a low price. After you go to Huishan, you will still take over the hotel you have built now. I will give you some plans, about 6 or 7, and then. Stop. Nuan stood up from her boss chair and Han Qian said softly. Have a question. It's time for you to take your medicine at noon. Han Qian suddenly felt a breath of air rushing through his body. In total, the girl stared at the phone for a long time, not thinking about what he said, but waiting for 12 o'clock. Nuan handed Han Qian the medicine and water together and said softly. It's useless to talk to you about these things. You just need to tell me what I should do and how to do it. The rest you have to talk to Lao Wen. After all, Changxiang was founded by him. Swallow the medicine. Why does it take more effort to drink the medicine than me? Gudu. Han Qian swallowed the medicine in his mouth. When Nuan opened Han Qian's mouth and checked carefully. After making sure he drank it, he returned to his desk with confidence and spoke again. You know what's wrong with me, so I have already made arrangements. I will start processing this matter tomorrow afternoon, but you need to sign on site. It's very simple. After 2 transactions, everything in Huishan Group belongs to you. Han Qian, what exactly are you planning? Tell me. I want to make the enjoyment yours alone. After leaving Changxiang, Nuan held his chin with one hand and looked at the sky outside the window. He felt that Han Qian was getting smarter and smarter. If he had accepted him with an open heart during those 3 years, maybe the life between the two of them would have been better. But when Nuan had already tried to accept Han Qian, and when he was about to achieve success, this guy filed for divorce. The more Nuan thought about it, the angrier he became. The angrier he became, the more he thought about it. He turned around and looked at the desk in front of him. Boom. The secretary outside the door was startled and hurriedly ran in. Seeing Vice President Wen's head resting on the desk, the secretary breathed a sigh of relief and patted his chest. At this time, Wen suddenly raised his head and looked at it with tears in his eyes. Secretary. Smile, it hurts. Nuan was the cutest and least scheming little girl. She rubbed her forehead and called her dad. Old Wen, Han Qian, and I will go home for dinner tonight. The son-in-law and daughter-in-law are going home. When she smiled and laughed. I'm going to buy wine. Xiao Qian likes to drink Wulianjai, right? Han Qian doesn't drink liquor. You don't understand us men. Han Qian fled in the Glory General Department. After throwing the key to Sul Yang, Han Qian ran away. Back in the car, Yates laughed and asked Han Qian why he was so afraid of Yang Lan. Han Qian had an arrogant look on his face while holding a cigarette in his mouth. I'll let her go, do you understand? Yates narrowed his eyes and smiled. Then we are going back. It was impossible to go back. Han Qian was afraid that Yang Lan would eat him. Wasn't it because he didn't report to the company to take medicine on the first day? As for buying coffins and burial plots? In District 8, Yates didn't like this place. Whenever someone passed by, Yates would grab Han Qian's arm to avoid him, but more people would stand in front of Han Qian, bend down and call him uncle. Yates grabbed Han Qian's arm and whispered. Mr. Han, you have a very high status in District 8. Han Qian smiled. If someone gives us face, we have to go on. There is no status in this world. No one is afraid of anyone. We all have one head and 2 legs. At worst, we will die together. I don't suggest you go in with me for a while. You probably haven't met me yet. Live a scene like this. Yates shook his head. Follow your boss and do whatever you want, and understand your boss's life. These are the basic rules for a secretary. In the dim basement of an unfinished building, Han Qian was sitting on a chair with his legs crossed, a cigarette in his left hand and a cup of hot tea in his right hand. Opposite him was a poor man hanging on a shelf. At this time, the white suit on Ho Er's body had been dyed red, and his hands were tied and dropped on the shelf. Guan Yunbiao was violent with a stick in his hand. Listening to Ho Er's screams, Han Qian said calmly. Do you regret coming in with me now? Yates stood behind Han Qian with her legs weak. She forced herself to stare at the scene in front of her that only appeared in the TV series. No. No regrets, I was wondering if he would die. Han Qian sneered. We are all good citizens, how can we kill people? We will feel unbearable every time the stick falls, right? Yates nodded. At this time, Han Qian stood up, took Yates's hand and walked forward. He pressed Yates' head with both hands and forced her to look at Ho Er, who was vomiting blood. He leaned close to her ear and whispered in her ear. Very miserable? Very distressed? Then let me tell you, every attack that falls on him now is what I have endured. At the Mid-Autumn Festival Gala, he was beaten by a toad until he vomited blood, and at the Swan Lake Gala, I hooked a cannon to force him to retreat. Shot me in the left shoulder. In Lu Guangming's resort, in order to chase the cannon, I rolled down the hillside, and my calf hit the rock and almost broke my bones. This time, I was hit by more than 20 knives. This head he was hit hard dozens of times. Don't pity the weak when you see him, because you don't know what he has done. Yates retreated step by step, wanting to escape. What Lu Shengge showed her was the beautiful, bright side of the world, the scene where the upper class laughed and talked happily while holding wine glasses, while what Han Qian showed her was the dark side of the world. Feeling Yates's struggle, Han Qian said softly. If Aunt Ji were here, she would personally end Ho Er's name, even the nursery rhymes, Nuan Nuan and the others would kill Ho Er, Yates. Yates was frightened and broke free from Han Qian's restraints and ran out of the basement. Han Qian nodded to the boy from District 8 and motioned for them to go out and watch. With her gone, Han Qian had nothing to worry about. He grabbed the baseball bat and hit Monkey Er in the stomach with it, roaring angrily. A tough talk. Why don't you tell me? Is the person who cooperates with Feng Lun actually Lin Mend? Isn't that right? Ho Er slowly raised his head, showed a smile to Han Qian, then spat on Han Qian's face and said with a ferocious smile. Little beast. Han Qian smiled, threw the stick in his hand to Xiao Hai, and said softly. My work is over, you can do the rest. I know you are more professional than me. Brother Guan, let's go see Wei Tiancheng. Han Qian didn't know if Ho Er could survive, but he was sure that he would not see him again in the future. After leaving the basement, Guan Yunbiao took Han Qian all the way to the top floor. Han Qian smiled when he looked at Wei Tiancheng, who was living a relatively comfortable life. Director Wei. Come on, why don't you come and sit down and chat? Maybe we can become friends. He was in good condition, he was not injured in any way. Wei Tiancheng glanced at Han Qian and said calmly. I won't say anything, I won't tell you anything about Feng Lun, Han Qian, I know I lost, but I'm just a chess piece. Huh? Are you confessing in a different way? Do you want to leave a way out for yourself? In fact, I am quite curious about one thing. You and Tu Xiao have never been on good terms. You have never done anything to Tu Xiao's family in so many years. Once. The more I think about it, the more impossible it becomes. As soon as these words came out, Guan Yunbiao's expression changed instantly and he said in a low voice. Brother Han, tell me what you have to say. Han Qian shrugged and smiled. I've heard the rumors too. It stands to reason that your master, who has been developing in the 8th district for so many years, should not be like this now. On the contrary, Wei Tiancheng, who comes from the same background, is getting better and better. It's absolutely impossible to say that no one is suppressing Boss 2 behind the scenes. Impossible, you have to ask Director Wei about this matter to see if Director Wei can get some information. As soon as he finished speaking, Guan Yunbiao pulled out a short knife and put it on Wei Tiancheng's neck. Wei Tiancheng said calmly. Master Han, you must provide evidence when you speak. Tu Xiao's wife died in childbirth, how can I still sneak into the operating room? There is no reason to blame you. Han Qian smiled lightly. Really? But why did I hear that Changxiang Group was planning to do real estate business when it first emerged, and this land was chosen in District 8? The time was not that long ago, about 16 or 17 years ago, but then because of some of the policies of the Yamanmen, the 8th district was transformed into Happy Street. As an old man in the 8th district, does Wei Wei know the things behind this? My father-in-law has told me a lot. Wei Tiancheng's expression changed and he said angrily. Han Qian, don't spit on others. Oh, it has nothing to do with you whether I am bloody or not, but don't worry, I will let you live. You are right, you are just a pawn. I have no interest in your life. What I want it's that old bastard behind you. Mr. Wei, have a good rest. You will be free tomorrow, but I don't know if you will still be alive the day after tomorrow. If you can tell me something useful, I can consider signing it now. Contract to escort you abroad. Wei Tianquan's face was gloomy, and he whispered after a long silence. What do you want to know? Are the two people behind you Linmend and Niu Qiudong? Is Feng Haida's death related to Niu Qiudong? Is the death of Tu Kun's mother related to Linmend? Are the people who hired Feng Lun Linmend and Niu Qiudong? 4 questions were asked in succession, and Wei Tiancheng sat weakly on the ground in an instant. Wei Tiancheng raised his head and looked at Han Qian, his eyes empty. It turns out you know, it turns out you have always known. I thought I had you under my control. In fact, I am the embarrassing clown. I can only answer 2 questions of yours. Are you sure you will escort me abroad? Then I want Huishan Group's surname to be Wen now. It's true that the person behind me is Linmend. Feng Haida is also from Niu Qiudong, but I don't know who Feng Haida's death has to do with. Feng Lun did meet Linmend before meeting me. He only asked me to give him 1 million, and the rest I didn't say anything. Next, second question. The death of Tu Xiao's wife was indeed not as simple as dystocia. Han Qian nodded and grinned. That's enough. While talking, he called Yates and at the same time took out another mobile phone and handed it to Wei Tiancheng. He knew what he should say and what he should do. Because Han Qian was right. He was brought here because he was worried that he would be secretly killed by Linmend. Wei Tiancheng didn't want to be the second Feng Haida. He wanted to live. At this time, he no longer cared about loyalty or not. Being alive was the most important thing. The most important. Wei Tiancheng made many phone calls, but Guan Yunbiao's knife never left his neck. After Wei Tiancheng signed the letter and notified all the top executives of Huishan Group, Han Qian smiled. I took a photo and sent it to Nuan, and also sent a text message. Is it okay? Within a few seconds, a warm phone call came. Wait for me to come over. Send me a position. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 648. Chapter 643. Wei Tiancheng was taken to the office of a KTV. He put on a new suit. Miao Miao and Zhao Shanying also sent passports and other documents. She was going to follow Linmend. This time, Miao Miao did not dare to look at Han Qian. She didn't understand that in just 1 year, Han Qian had allowed her man to end up like this. Nuan came and brought the lawyer and Yu Shisai. The two sat across from each other to sign, and the lawyer took out his camera. In the photo, Wei Tiancheng was smiling and seemed to be very satisfied with the transaction. Nuan put away a few documents and handed them to Yu Shisai. When he looked at Wei Tiancheng again, his face was cold and he said calmly. The money will be transferred to your account tomorrow afternoon, Director Wei. I don't want a second or third shareholder to appear in Huishan. Wei Tiancheng smiled lightly. Don't worry, Mr. Wen, the 2 shareholders of Huishan Group are me and Shanying. Since both of us have signed and pledged, Huishan belongs to you alone. Nuan nodded, turned, and left the office, telling Han Qian that she was waiting for him outside the door. Everyone left, and Miao Miao and Zhao Shanying were also sent out of the office. Han Qian threw a cigarette to Wei Tiancheng and smiled. Do you really think I will let you go easily? Brother Guan, put it in a sack and feed it to the fish. Quan Yunbiao smiled. Han Qian turned around and left the KTV, ignoring the ashen-faced Wei Tiancheng. When he went out, he saw Wen Nuan and Ye Xiao's poems in the distance. Before Han Qian could say anything, Wen Nuan stepped forward and grabbed Han Qian's hand. Ears, seeing the anger on the girl's face, Han Qian was so frightened that he quickly covered his forehead and said anxiously, "What's going on? Trojan horse." Lips pressed on the face, Nuan waved the document in his hand at Han Qian, and Han Qian also smiled. "Let's go. It's almost dark, and I haven't told my parents to go to their place yet." "Good. Wait a minute, let me have a few words with Yates." Han Qian walked towards Yates, put his arms around her neck and whispered a few words in her ear. Yates looked at Han Qian with wide eyes, and then walked into the KTV. At this time, Nuan shouted to Yushasai, "Are we taking a taxi? You are not allowed to ask for leave tomorrow." "I understand, my eldest lady." In the car, Han Qian didn't say a word. When Nuan looked at the documents in his hand and smiled from ear to ear. He didn't care about money, but because he could show off to Lao Wen after returning home. He said, "Look, your daughter thieves have a future." Nuan pulled Han Qian to take pictures, but Han Qian couldn't laugh no matter what. His heart was heavy because of Ho Er, because of Wei Tiancheng, because he couldn't be fed enough, and because of Tu Kun. Don't worry about Wei Tiancheng's future revenge, he is the second Li Dahai, a character who has finished his curtain call on the Binhai stage. The most ridiculous thing is that Wei Tiancheng has put himself into the role of Li Dahai many times, but he did not expect that Han Qian's method of defeating him would be hundreds of times easier than dealing with Li Dahai. Wei Tiancheng knew that he did not lose unjustly, and he was defeated by Han Qian. Qian touched it clearly. When he arrived at his mother-in-law's house, Li Jinhe took his son-in-law's hand and kept calling him, "How is your son, on the left and warm on the right? Have you bullied me?" With his mother-in-law, Han Qian put aside all his maturity and said with an aggrieved face that Wen had forced him to eat crabs today. As a result, Wen grabbed his ear and lectured him. Han Qian wanted to help in the kitchen, but when he walked into the kitchen and was about to take action, Wen who stopped him. "Just take good care of the sick man. My bones are still strong." Han Qian stood behind Wenshi and whispered, "Dad, my hands may not be clean." Wenshi trembled, turned around and looked at Han Qian, who looked like a child who had done something wrong, and said in a deep voice, "Do it yourself." Han Qian sighed and shook his head. I don't know how to put it, if he was soft-hearted, this man could survive, but I feel." Nuan wiped the water stains on his hands, stretched out his hand and pinched Han Qian's face, laughing softly. "This has nothing to do with you. You just did what you should do. You left a multiple-choice question to give this person a way to survive. As for whether he chooses to take another path, it is his own choice. Don't think too much. This world just like that, people leave every day and new people appear. Dad, come have a drink with me tonight. Don't worry, you are a kid who doesn't even dare to kill crabs. I can understand how you feel now. Dad will drink with you." The meal was very sumptuous. Wen Shu and Han Qian sat together and took out 2 small cups. Han Qian picked up the wine glass and drank it all in one gulp. Seeing this, Li Jinhe and Wen Nuan were about to speak, but found that Wen Shu had given Han Qian another glass. When the two of them looked at Wen Shu, they found that Wen Shu's eyes were filled with distress. What happened? Li Jinhe looked at Wen, whose eyes were full of confusion. At this time, Han Qian's cell phone rang. He stood up and walked to the balcony to answer the phone. When she stood up and sighed, walked to the sofa, and took out the phone under the cushion of the sofa. Half a pack of cigarettes. Something was wrong. Li Jinhe could feel that something was wrong between the two men. On the balcony, Han Qian looked at the hazy sky and listened to Yates's voice on the phone. Everything has been arranged, Ho-er has resisted all charges. He chose to commit suicide out of fear of crime. Han Qian sighed and said calmly. Do you regret it? You regret following a boss with blood on his hands. I don't regret it. I prefer Wei Tiancheng to die. I feel a little irritable, Mr. Han. Is this the end of the matter? Han Qian looked at the sky and sighed. 4 lives. But this matter is far from over. Go and have fun. Let Chisai and Guan Yunbiao take you out to play. I guess he will feel bad too. After hanging up the phone, Wen Shi handed over a cigarette and whispered softly while holding the railing of the balcony with both hands. It is very common to take the blame for the master. This monkey is not a good person. He was the one who kept disturbing, threatening, and finally drove the car to scare Mrs. Xiao. Otherwise, the little girl in District 8 would not have given birth prematurely. He dying in Wei Tianquan's place has nothing to do with you, Xiao Qian. It's already beyond my expectation that you haven't killed anyone so far. Han Qian lowered his head and covered his face while choking. Coco. No, but what does it have to do with you? Monkey will get a large sum of money, which he has never seen in his life. Those who do evil will eventually be punished. This result is very good. If Wei Tiancheng returns it to Lin Ment, then maybe not one person will die. Let's go. Dad will go drink with you. Han Qian didn't know why he collapsed, and he didn't understand why he cried. It's uncontrollable tears. Back at the dining table, Han Qian bowed down and apologized to Li Jinhe. Mom, I'm sorry. Li Jinhe stood up, touched the back of Han Qian's head, and said softly. We are the closest family. It's not shameful for you to cry in front of Mom. Be good. Mom won't stop you and your dad from smoking and drinking tonight. If you want to drink beer, Mom will buy it for you. Being so comforted, Han Qian couldn't help it anymore. When Nuan rarely saw Han Qian cry, and even said that she had never seen him cry before. She was a little panicked and didn't know what to do. She suddenly stood up and walked to the sofa to pick up her bag, took out the documents and trotted to the dining table and handed them to Wen Shu. Old Wen, look. When she took the document and was surprised when he saw the large words share resale on it. When he saw the signatures of Wei Tiancheng and Zhao Shanying, Wen Shi was stunned, then looked at Han Qian and said softly. Xiao Qian. Go to the study with Dad. Jinhe, prepare it. If the dishes are cold, heat them up. I know, go ahead. Today, Li Jinhe gave special favor to Wen Shi. Walking into the study, Han Qian knelt down with a pop. Wen Shu said softly without helping him. Tell me carefully and I'll tell you the whole story. I'm not an old-timer like your mother. Han Qian knelt on the ground and whispered. Dad, I made the decision without permission and reached an agreement with Lin Ment. He purchased Nuan's shares at a price of 130%. When Nuan and Chang Xiang severed their relationship. After purchasing Wei Tianquan's Huishan Group at half price, Nuan personal holding. When she smiled. Okay, stand up. I'm hurt all over. Do you think I'll feel bad for leaving the joy I created? My time has long passed. You young people don't have to live for old men like us. Han Qian did not get up and whispered. No. I'm just leaving Changxiang temporarily. Once Nuan Wen leaves Changxiang, I will launch an attack on the Lin family and his son. Finally, let Nuan Wen return to Changxiang Group as the chairman of the board. The affirmation in the words and the confidence in the eyes. All this tells Wen Shu that Han Qian already has sufficient plans. Wen Shi stood up and spoke calmly. What do you need me to do? When I recommend Nuan to take the position of chairman of Changxiang, I hope you can praise Nuan in front of everyone at Changxiang and say that she is your pride. Wen Nuan outside the door covered her mouth when she heard these words. She returned to the kitchen with a slight trembling, hugged Li Jinhe who was heating the dishes, and choked in a low voice. Li Jinhe turned around and said softly, "I told you not to eavesdrop. Your dad said he should go to the study. He must be trying to avoid us." Nuan hugged Li Jinhe's neck and choked. "Mom. I regret it. I regret the divorce. I regret asking Han Qian to compensate me 4 million. Everything he is enduring now is because of me." Li Jinhe held his precious daughter, patted her back gently, and said softly, "Be good. Don't lose the beauty you don't know you have. Han Qian still loves you now. Don't cry." After coming here for about half an hour, Han Qian told Wen Shu the detailed plan, and Wen Shu gave Han Qian some suggestions. Han Qian was humbled. When he opened the study door, Wen Shu with red eyes appeared in front of Han Qian. In front of Qian, before Han Qian could react, Wen Nuan stretched out his arms around Han Qian's neck, raised his head and cried loudly. "Wow, hubby, wow, I love. I know you love eating crabs. Let's go and eat." Hearing this sentence, Wen Shu was struck by lightning in the study. How could Han Qian understand this in his head? As for Li Jinhe in the kitchen, he was laughing so hard that he couldn't stand upright. My son-in-law is the cutest. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 649. Husband. Wen Nuan eagerly looked at Han Qian lying on the bed, and had the urge to torment him, but Han Qian was already drunk and asleep. After getting into bed, Wen Nuan lay beside him, supporting his head with one hand and looking at the sleeping man. Just watching quietly, finally before going to sleep, he gently bumped Han Qian's forehead with his forehead. Early in the morning, Han Qian opened his eyes and looked at the frantically vibrating mobile phone on the bedside table in confusion. He was a little irritated. He pulled the quilt over his head and prepared to take a nap. As soon as he lay down, he felt something was wrong. This was not warm bed. He stood up suddenly, and his eyes suddenly went dark. He stood up violently, patted his head and opened his eyes again. It's like a star. He took the phone and took a look, pressed the connect button and put it to his ear. The roar coming from the phone made Han Qian couldn't help but put the distance between the phone and his ear. "Han. Sir. It's already 9 o'clock. Is your phone buried in the soil? I told you yesterday that I will pick you up at 8:30. We are going to the Yamen gate." Han Qian sat cross-legged on the bed and muttered softly. "I won't go, I'm very tired." Yates was silent on the phone. Then Han Qian heard the knock on the door and ignored it. He lay down and continued to sleep. Nuan, who was having breakfast, got up and opened the door. When he saw Yates, he was slightly startled, then stepped aside and whispered softly. "Road. He's probably still sleeping." Yates closed his eyes and took a deep breath, walked in, changed into slippers, and bowed to Wen Shi and Li Jinhe. "Hello, uncle and aunt, my name is Yates. I have been working as a secretary for Mr. Han recently. I came to pick him up from the Yamen gate today. The time was originally set at 8:30. You see, it is already 9 o'clock now. I called just now. He can't stop being so angry. Uncle and aunt, you have to make the decision for me. This secretary has been wronged." Tears fell down as he spoke. Nuan sighed, stepped forward, hugged Yates's shoulders carelessly, and sighed. "Get used to it. Just bear with it and you'll get used to it. Have you had breakfast? Let's eat some together and wait until he wakes up." Yates was pulled by Wen Nuan to sit at the dining table. Wen quickly went to get a pair of bowls and chopsticks and handed them to Yates, introducing them softly. "Dad, Mom, this is Yates. He used to work as a secretary for Lushenga. He is very famous in the secretarial circles in the capital. Now he is the general manager of Yezai Pavilion. She is a very powerful girl. Yates was slightly embarrassed to be praised by Wen Nuan, but she was not polite at all. She lowered her head and sipped the porridge in a casual manner. 9:20. Han Qian came out, looked at Yates sitting on the sofa, and frowned. "Why are you here? Didn't I say I wouldn't go to the Yamenkao?" Seeing Han Qian, Yates stood up and walked forward, stretched out his hand to straighten the collar of his suit, and frowned. "Mr. Han, you really have to go to the Yamen gate. You haven't forgotten what happened yesterday, right? It's not too late to go now." After the words fell, Wen Nuan stood up and spoke. "You two sent me to the company, I didn't drive." After all, Han Qian was fooled into going out and sent Nuan all the way to the company. Han Qian told her to contact her at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Nuan made an okay gesture and trotted into Changxiang. Looking at Nuan's trotting back, Yates said lightly, "Just letting the lovely eldest lady leave the Changxiang group that she worked so hard to support? Isn't it a little too cruel?" Han Qian took out the cigarette and put it in his mouth, lowered his head and said calmly, "You have to go through this as an adult. Tell me why I have to go to the Yamen gate. Monkey 2 is dead." Han Qian suddenly raised his head, then lowered his head, lit the cigarette, took a long breath, and said calmly, "Early." Yates started the car and said again, "What happened at 4 o'clock this morning? He swallowed a gun and committed suicide. The news has not spread yet. I think Lin Men should not be allowed to know that someone has been made a scapegoat. We cannot be passive. Do you think it was Wei Tiancheng who set it up for us? Together? Yes, the old guy will definitely not give in, but what's the use of it? According to what you said, I really have to go to the Yamen gate. Let's go. Let's go see Uncle Nuan first." Municipal Bureau. Han Qian sat opposite Li Jinhe. Li Jinhe was busy. Han Qian took the information on his desk and looked at it. Li Jinhe, who was on the phone, was too lazy to answer him. After about 20 minutes, Li Jinhe finished what he was doing and put down his hands. Phone, frowning. "Ho Kong committed suicide, did you know?" Han Qian smiled. "I know. He was beaten before his death and his body was severely injured. As Wei Tianquan's right-hand man, he is responsible for fighting. He either gets beaten or beats up others. Is it weird to get injured? You came here just for him today, right? He really has something to do with you. He took the blame, right?" Li Jinhe closed his eyes and nodded, feebly. "Some evidence was found in his home, which is enough to prove that he hired a killer to kill you. This case is about to be closed. Tell me, what are the conditions?" Han Qian smiled and said with a naive smile, "Block the news about Ho Kong committing suicide. I will contact you in the afternoon and release the news. Wen Nuan and I have some things to deal with this afternoon. It is more important. Can you help me? And turn off the monitoring of my mobile phone today. I'm going to fight my whole life to help Nuan this afternoon. You help me, and I'll give you money, lots and lots of money." After saying this, Han Qian stood up and ran. Li Jinhe held the table with one hand and crossed over. The two men chased him from the third floor to the municipal bureau compound. Li Jinhe pointed at Han Qian and cursed angrily. Han Qian raised his head and ran out of the municipal bureau with a big laugh. When Yates walked out of the city bureau, Han Qian was squatting on the side of the road eating bread and talking on the phone. The call was to Cheng Jin, probably asking Cheng Jin to control it as much as possible and try not to let Niu Qiudong communicate with Lin Mend. As a reward, he could reluctantly take over that piece of land and reduce some financial pressure on the Yeomanmen. Seeing Yates, Han Qian hung up the phone and stuffed all the remaining bread into his mouth. Within a few seconds, the guy's eyes widened and he kept drooping his chest. Seeing this, Yates panicked and hurriedly went to the car for the water glass. Looking at Han Qian drinking gulps of water, Yates frowned and said angrily, "You are just showing signs of recovery from the injury to your sternum, but you are no longer alive." Han Qian handed the empty cup to Yates and gasped, "It's better than choking to death. Where should I go next?" "Hospital. Look at Luo Shen." Yates didn't look very good along the way, and when he arrived at the hospital, he didn't want to go in. Han Qian smiled and put his arm around Yates' shoulders, dragging the woman into the hospital like a friend. Walking on the first floor, the doctor I met smiled and greeted Han Qian. Han Qian had seen almost all the doctors in this hospital except the gynecologists. During consultations, he was used as a teaching tool. Half of his body was pressed against Yates. Han Qian also got an honorable nickname: Scumbag. The little nurses even stayed away from Han Qian and avoided him one after another. Yates said softly, "Mr. Han, can you be more serious? You are also a well-known figure in the city. Can you please stop acting like a gangster? Let me go first. Don't let go." Han Qian continued to put his arms around Yeji's neck, looked at the two men guarding the door of the ward in the distance, and said calmly, "The people in the city are afraid of me not because of the power behind me, but because I am a mad dog who bites everyone. Besides, how can I protect my secretary if I don't care about anything? If your claws dare to go down, I will bite you to death." Han Qian retracted his hand with a smile. The two men guarding Yeji's door looked Han Qian up and down. They did not stop him, but said hello to Yeji. When he opened the door and walked into the room, Han Qian saw the dark shadow rushed over with a strong smell of perfume. The target was not him, but Yates, who he was holding in his arms. Han Qian quickly stretched out his right hand to grab the foreign girl's arm, but received a slap on the back of his hand. His arm was grabbed and thrown aside. The next second, Han Qian raised his legs and stepped on his knees with a pair of high heels. The foreign girl looked at Han Qian with provocation in her eyes. Unexpectedly, Han Qian smiled, stretched out his hand to grab the foreign girl's belt, and grabbed her hair with the other hand to headbutt her. Don't want." Yates and Luo Shen spoke at the same time, and the foreign girl quickly broke away and backed away. She frowned and said she was not a man. Han Qian retorted angrily, "The go you mother." The foreign girl tilted her head and was stunned. She didn't understand. The corners of Luo Shen's eyes twitched slightly. As for Yates, he had already covered his face and wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. Is this too embarrassing? At this time, the foreign girl frowned at Han Qian. "What are you saying?" You, man, your English is perfect." Luo Shen got out of bed sideways, and the foreign girl hurriedly stepped forward to help him. Luo Shen said softly, Okay, don't be embarrassed. Things that can be solved by just saying you have to be smart. Tell me, why do you have time to come and see me today?" Han Qian tilted his head and looked at Yates and said calmly, "Can you get out of bed? You're recovering quickly." Yates smiled, stretched out his tongue and licked the corner of his mouth, and said with a smile, "Not only can I get out of bed, but I can also get in bed." After saying this, Han Qian clapped his hands and applauded. "Good job, heroine. Keep this ocean horse away from Yates, Luo Shen. If you have investigated me, you should know what I hate the most. You're gay, I know. I also know you had a fight with a gay doctor. So." Han Qian pointed his finger at the foreign girl, who glared at Han Qian and said angrily, "Free to love. You. Would you say anything else? Get the out of here." The foreign girl's blood pressure is a bit high, and there is nothing she can do when she encounters such a man who doesn't act according to common sense. At this time, Luo Shen said, Okay, you two, stop arguing. I just won't let Nair disturb Yates. Han Qian. You should change your old ideas. Han Qian curled his lips and said calmly. If I changed my mind, you would have been raped and then killed by Go De Peo that night. I want to ask you something. Do you want revenge? If you want, I will let you have a smooth life in Binhai City. If you don't want to, I will kick you out tomorrow. Luo Shen tilted his head and looked at Han Qian with a frown. Can you put it in a nicer way? Han Qian pouted and counterattacked. It's better to say something nice than to look nice. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 650. Yates showed off his tea skills, which made Han Qian's tooth hurt. He just drank the tea after brewing it. When he was a child, he worked in the fields with the old man at home. Didn't he just boil some hot water in the morning and put some tea leaves in it and drink it? This thing about taking off your pants and farting is just a waste. Looking at Han Qian's eyes, Luo Shen knew what was thinking in his head, picked up the teacup and said calmly. My lord, can you be a little more educated and educated? Tea art is the traditional culture of our country, and tea art is considered one of the compulsory courses for women. Han Qian glanced at the tea table and said calmly. I'm uneducated. I haven't even finished college. I have to work hard just for a penny, but I can't enjoy this. This stuff is for rich people. I'm poor. Marry me and you will be rich. Are you richer than King Hu? Luo Shen glared at the man who didn't understand the charm. She didn't struggle with this topic. The main reason was that she couldn't get entangled. Luo Shen didn't know how much Cai King Hu had. What was certain was that even if she inherited the company, she would not be as wealthy as Cai King Hu. This woman dares to spend 100 million a day without frowning. And she is only responsible for spending money, never thinking about how to make money, nor does she want to make money. The difference between people is here. Those who have no money regard money as life, and those who have money regard money as waste paper. Luo Shen held the teacup with both hands and sipped tea. Yates handed Han Qian a cup, and the guy drank it directly. Yates sighed, picked up the cup and gave Han Qian a glass of mineral water. Han Qian flicked it on Yates' forehead. Yates puffed up his mouth and looked out the window. The foreign girl couldn't stand it anymore and left the ward with a cold snort. She left, Han Qian said calmly. Someone has taken the blame. Wei Tiancheng ran away. Nuan will sell his shares in the afternoon. The rest is between the two of us. I have two plans to help you gain a foothold in Binhai City. The land in Dongcheng will be restored. In my hands, you can get half of the development of the tourism industry. This is just one of them. Secondly, I will let your Lo group open a shopping mall in the city within half a year. Luo Shen stretched out her hand, and Han Qian slapped her palm with a clear voice. Luo Shen curled his lips in disdain. Bad check. Han Qian said with a smile. The planning project hasn't been completed yet. If you don't agree, my efforts will be in vain. What if I agree and there is no plan? Tell me your plan, just say it orally. I have taken down Wei Tianken's Huishan group. Wei Tiancheng has escaped abroad. He cannot die yet. Lin Meng will be restricted only if he is alive. I will meet with Lin Meng at Huishan group at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. After that, I will let him glory, Shun Cheng, and Wen Nuan's Huishan group, together with your rock group, will attack Changxiang. This is my current plan. Do you include marrying me in your plan? No. Oh, then you can play by yourself. Miss Ye, let's go and ignore the psychopath. Han Qian took Yates and left. Luo Shen did not hold back and looked at the sky outside the window, slightly lost in thought. A month ago, she was choosing suits for Lin Zongheng and dreaming about her wedding. But now, they were going to meet each other in war. They were probably going to be laughed at by the people in the capital. They married to Binhai City and ended up becoming enemies. The news that Lin Zongheng wants to kill her will not be hidden for too long. As time goes by, everyone in the world will know about it. Not seeking revenge? How can you not seek revenge, but Han Qian, can't you say something nice? Luo Shen sighed and shouted softly to the door. Go through the discharge procedures and tell Luo Fu that I want a car. At 1:10 in the afternoon, Han Qian stood downstairs at Huishan Group. At 1:20, Tu Xiao came, stood beside Han Qian, raised his head and looked at the four characters Wei Wu Huishan Group and said calmly. My daughter has better taste than me. Han Qian chuckled softly. Because you made the right choice, we have two kun. Boss 2, don't think about retiring. The backup game has just ended, and the stage in Binhai City has just begun. At 1:25, the Mercedes-Benz E300 stopped at the entrance of Huishan Group. Suliang got out of the car and waved to Han Qian. When he took out two very familiar baseball bats from the trunk, Han Qian trotted over and stuffed the sticks. He turned back and cursed with a smile. Are you stupid? We won't fight today. Suliang whispered that he was worried that Han Qian would suffer a loss, so he went to borrow two sticks from Mr. Yan. Han Qian put his arm around Suliang's shoulders and smiled. When did our brothers suffer a loss? Isn't it right? Suliang nodded and waved hello to Tu Xiao from a distance. This Suliang has gradually become famous in the city. He is a very capable young man in the Glory Group and a friend that Han Qian cares about very much. Before Han Qian could return to Tu Xiao, GL8 arrived. Lu Guangming opened the door while the car was still driving and shouted to Han Qian from a distance. Tu Xiao approached Han Qian and said calmly. This fox's nose belongs to a dog. Han Qian smiled. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to be where he is today based on his abilities. Everyone has advantages. For example, if you gave Brother Guan 1 million, would there still be a place under Boss 2? I used to work as a salaryman. As he spoke, Han Qian stepped forward and opened his arms. Lu Guangming laughed and hugged Han Qian. Lu Guangming whispered in Han Qian's ear. Lin Ment, this old ghost, has been contacting businessmen in the city for the past 2 days, do you understand? Han Qian patted Lu Guangming's back and said with a smile. Got it? Tu Xiao shook hands with Lu Guangming, and the latter put his arm around Suliang's shoulders and asked if he was interested in going to Shuncheng. If not, he would give birth to a daughter and marry Suliang's child. At 1:40, multiple vehicles arrived at Huishan Group. The warm Alfa Romeo, Yu Shisai's Audi A7, Luo Shanda Subaru, and Sun Yu's BMW 5 Series. Wen got out of the car in a white suit. The driver was her secretary Chang Xiao. Her face was as cold as frost and her eyes were cold as she approached the crowd. She nodded to Tu Xiao and Lu Guangming and followed Suliang's soft voice, Li how is Pear's health? It was something that Little Phoenix took the initiative to talk to, which was unexpected by everyone. Suliang replied in a low voice, feeling flattered. I'm just pregnant, no different from normal people. Nuan nodded and stopped talking. Two young men got out of Yu Shisai's car. They were carrying computers and other equipment. Yu Shisai's face was also very serious. Luo Shanda got out of the car and walked forward, saying calmly. I have sorted out the taxes on Huishan Group and paid them off. I will waive this tax. Han Qian bent down and thanked Luo Shanda. Thanks. Gao Xing smiled at Wen Nuan with his signature smile. Mr. Yan has a meeting today and specifically asked me to come over. Glory Group is willing to form an alliance with Director Wen. Han Qian bent down again, and before he could open his mouth, Gao Qianxing was already standing in the group. He knew very well what Han Qian meant by bending down. He didn't want to accept it, and he couldn't bear it. Seeing the time approaching 2 o'clock, Yates said softly. "We're almost here, Mr. Han." Han Qian did not speak, looking at the road in the distance in a daze. When a Maybach with a Beijing license plate appeared in his sight, Han Qian smiled. The Maybach stopped in front of everyone. Han Qian stepped forward and opened the door, smiling. "Little Hanzi welcomes Miss Luo family. Luo Shen is here." When this woman brought this car over today, Han Qian already understood what she meant. She wanted to build momentum and let people in Binhai City know about this top luxury car with a Beijing license plate. She also wanted people to know that Luoshan was not a top-notch luxury car. The reputation of the Lin family's daughter-in-law exists. Luo Shen nodded with satisfaction to Han Qian and said calmly, "If you don't open the door, I won't get out of the car." "Okay. That's pretty much it. It's not about any deep hatred." After helping Luo Shen out of the car, the foreign girl had prepared a wheelchair, but Han Qian hadn't gone upstairs yet. He had another guest. 20 minutes past 2. This unplanned guest did not show up, but sent Han Qian a text message. "Feel sorry." Han Qian didn't reply. He put away his phone and walked behind Luo Shen's wheelchair. Just when his hand was about to touch the wheelchair, Nuan came over, pushed Han Qian away, and pushed the wheelchair. Everyone walked with Luo Shen on the slope. Enter the hall. The originally messy inquiries have been sorted out, but it can still be seen how tragic that day was. Luo Shen looked at the golden toad that Han Qian had thrown out and said softly, "Warmth, I'm surprised." Nuan said calmly while pushing the wheelchair, "My husband is injured. If you don't feel sorry for me, I will. I'm also very distressed, but more guilty." "It's okay, I don't care. I know better than any of you how good my husband is. I won't cover up his shine, nor will I worry about the suitors behind him. If you can get to the top, I wish you the best. If you can't get there, don't even think about it. I can tolerate those evil ways once, but it's a pity that they have been overtaken this time." After saying the words, Han Qian felt a chill in his back, and his eyes were full of fear. At this time, Wen Nuan turned his head and smiled at Han Qian. Han Qian was so panicked that he didn't know which leg to step into the elevator first. "Are you afraid of the warmth?" "Afraid? So scary." "Afraid of her complaining." In the office on the 10th floor, Suliang stepped forward and opened the door. When everyone walked into the office, there were still a few people here, including Wu Sijuan standing in front of the window, Guan Degu sitting on the boss's chair, and 2 black bodyguards. Han Qian xiaorode. Brother Error, are you here?" 2 of Qian Ling's 4 bodyguards, Qian Wan likes to call them boss and second, while Han Qian calls them brother. The boss is not tall. When he saw Han Qian, he showed his white teeth and said a bunch of foreign words. "Talk." Everyone was stunned when he said this. "It's not English, I can't understand it." Han Qian scratched his head in confusion. At this time, Wen Nuan and Yates behind him spoke at the same time. "The boss is worried that you will act up again, so he asked us to come over and protect you. The boss thought you were messing around, so we came over to watch you." Wen Nuan and Yates looked at each other at the same time, seeming to blame the other party's translation problem. The old man laughed and told Han Qian in broken Chinese that he was speaking French and that he was half French. The second child on the side seemed to mean it. "If you want to joke with Han Qian, just speak German." This time, neither Nuan nor Yates spoke in a hurry. They looked at each other and said at the same time, "Master, you should study more. Master, you should go to school." It would not be surprising if both girls could speak French for the first time, but they could also translate German clearly, which made everyone look at them with admiration. Han Qian pushed Luo Shen to the window, and everyone sat down casually. Now we have to wait for Lin Men to come over. During the waiting time, no one felt bored or stressed at all, because Nuan and Yates were arguing. Nuan spoke in Japanese and Yates spoke in Korean very fast. It seemed that they both understood what the other party was saying. Finally, Nuan spoke in a long voice with anger in his eyes and contempt in his eyes. 8GA. Yates curled his lips and snorted angrily. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 651. At 3 o'clock, Lin Mend came on time. As Lu Guangming said, Lin Mend brought many businessmen from the city this time. His intention was obvious. He wanted to tell Han Qian that these people were standing by his side. When Nuan wanted to, jumping out of enjoyment is just pushing yourself towards a dead end. But what he didn't expect was that there would be people from Shuncheng and Guangrong here today. Now that the leadership is in Han Qian's hands, even if Lin Mend brings in 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals, Han Qian will not be afraid. Lin Laoba was leaning on a cane and sat down with Lin Zongheng's support. Han Qian smiled, pulled Nuan and pressed her onto the sofa opposite Lin Mend. Then he snapped his fingers and sat on the boss's chair by the floor-to-ceiling window to look at the scenery. Luo Shen turned around in his chair, narrowed his eyes and smiled. Uncle Lin, long time no see. Lin Zongheng looked at Luo Shen and opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something. However, due to the large number of people in the room, he did not say anything. At this time, Han Qian spoke. Old man, there are no paper cups today. Lin Mend smiled lightly. It's okay, I prepare my own things. It was expected that the Wen family's niece would show up here, but I didn't expect that the Luo family's niece would also be here. It seems that Xiao Qian has been planning today's plan for a long time, right? Han Qian smiled slightly. What's the matter? I just want to give Changxiang to young Master Lin, so that young Master Lin can have the opportunity to show his strength, so as not to appear timid in Changxiang due to the warmth. As for Luo Shen, we are good friends. We are in the capital. We drank wine together and wrote poems, Yates. After hearing what Han Qian said, the two girls began to prepare what they should do. The two contracts were placed in front of Nuan. Yates turned around and left the room under the escort of Guan Daegu. She had other things to do. Lin Mend looked at the two documents on the table and smiled lightly. My niece-in-law seems a little forgetful. I haven't met Xiao Wei yet. I can't sign this contract. At this time, Nuan took out the contract signed with Wei Tiancheng and placed it on the table. Nuan said softly. We signed a share agreement with Director Wei yesterday. Han Qian answered. Director Wei? He has gone abroad after drinking yesterday. The flight was at 8 o'clock last night. If you don't believe it, you can call and ask. With your ability, old man, it shouldn't be difficult for the airline to check a person's name, right? I guess you can also get the surveillance. I have let him go. Does the old man regret it? We are not going to buy or sell by force. At the worst, we can just resell Huishan Group to Luoshan. Luo Shen narrowed his eyes and smiled. The Luo family is very willing to take over the Huishan Group. The current situation is very favorable to Han Qian. He is forcing Lin Mend to buy Huishan Group with 50%. He is just talking about it. He will have to bear no matter how much money he gives to Wei Tiancheng. Even if he has to pay, Nuan can't do it. There is also Luoshan. If Luoshan is not good enough, there is King Hu. It was Lin Mend who was able to get the money for Han Qian. He didn't know how much money Han Qian spent to buy Huishan Group. Even if he knew that when Nuan didn't sell the shares and had no money to pay the final payment, Luoshan was waiting now. From Luo Shen's series of behaviors after she woke up, it is certain that Luo Shen knew that Lin Zongheng wanted to kill her. Will she not take revenge? Preventing the Luo family from entering Binhai City is much more important than dealing with Nuan Nuan. Moreover, the Lin family will not suffer too much loss by acquiring the shares held by Wen Nuan. But Lin Men didn't want to buy it at a price of 130%. He asked someone to investigate, and it turned out that Wei Tiancheng had indeed gone abroad. After receiving the news, Lin Men chuckled. Niece-in-law, you are still too young. Do you think a piece of paper is effective? If nothing else, you haven't paid Wei Tiancheng yet. It seems that the initiative is no longer in your hands. Han Qian frowned and said doubtfully. What does Mr. Lin mean? I can buy the shares from Wen Nuan. I brought so many people here today just to get the 27%. I am willing to pay 130%, but you brothers are not fools. You can sell the company to Luoshan, and I will bring Wei Tiancheng back and we can file a lawsuit. Han Qian frowned and looked embarrassed. Lin Men smiled when he saw this. He took the documents on the table and took a look at them, then threw them on the ground and said with a smile. 90%, for Wen Shi's sake, I will take away the shares in Wen Shen's hands. The faces of everyone present turned ugly. Only Lu Guangming was sitting on the sofa with a smile. Lin Men turned to look at Lu Guangming and frowned. Director Lu is in a good mood. Lu Guangming chuckled. Not bad. Lin Men clicked his tongue, turned his head to look at Wen Nuan, crossed his legs and smiled. Niece, you are still too young, and you chose to break up with this kid because of his words. How will we get along with each other after we meet? You can't say that uncle bullied you two young people, right? The people behind him laughed, and Han Qian's face became even more ugly. At this time, Lin Zongheng received a call, and then his face was ecstatic. He bent down and whispered a few words in his father's ear. Lin Mend also had a look on his face after hearing this. With a smile, he smiled. Niece-in-law, I just got the news. I contacted Go De Peo. The person who hired people to hurt you and Luo Shen's niece was Ho Kong. This person has committed suicide out of fear of crime. I think the balance suddenly tilted towards me. In this case, I am not embarrassed anymore. You guys, I'll take the Huishan group, and I'll settle the balance of course. As for niece Wen's 27 shares, just donate them. Unwise. It was indeed a mistake. Han Qian didn't expect that the news of Ho Er's guilt would still be known to Lin Mend. Han Qian took a deep breath and whispered. Uncle Lin, how about we give it 120%? Let's lower it a little. You see, we are not a family. Before Lin Mend could speak, Lin Zongheng spoke first. Who the hell is the same family as you, the mud-legged guy? Once you take away the shares in Nuan Nuan's hands, I'll see how you can explain to Nuan Nuan's parents. After hearing this, Han Qian pressed his ears in embarrassment and whispered. Really, we can't discuss it anymore. Lin Men took the water glass handed by the assistant and shook his head lightly. Everyone in the room looked unhappy. Luo Shen frowned and looked at Han Qian. Did he fail? Gao Jishi also frowned. Facing Lin Mend, Han Qian was still too young. This old guy brought Wei Tiancheng back. As long as Wen Nuan didn't pay, they couldn't win this relationship, and Wei Tiancheng was taken to the 8th district. The matter is not a secret, and his words may completely bring Han Qian and Tu Xiao to an end. It seems that the shares in Nuan Nuan's hands are going to be lost today, and nothing will exist anymore. Han Qian was frowning, Wen Nuan was expressionless, and Lu Guangming was smiling. The scene is very strange. At this time, the door was pushed open. Yates spoke in a low voice with his mobile phone. He trotted to Han Qian and handed the Nokia to Han Qian. Han Qian took the phone and said softly. Feng, you'd better tell me some good news, otherwise Kui Li will kill me with a knife and we won't be done with it. The surname is Feng. Kui Li. These 5 words made everyone frown, and Lin Men's face suddenly turned ugly. Han Qian. It's right for Kui Li to kill you, but it was an accident to hurt Miss Luo. Since you can let Miss Luo not pursue the case, then I should show my sincerity and ask for Wei Tianquan's death head or his woman's tongue. You say, I will do it, the distance between us is, well, less than 1 meter. Nokia's voice was loud and everyone could hear it clearly. Han Qian said calmly. Be well. In fact, you can have a good chat with Wei Tiancheng. He is very talkative. By the way, tell him that someone is going to find him. It's best to move to another place. Okay, my brother Han, I am looking forward to our meeting. I will kill you with my own hands. You have disappointed me. I have been trying to build momentum for you, but you are just picking up girls. You, hang up. Bye. Han Qian put down his mobile phone, walked up to sit next to the girl and hugged the girl's waist. At this time, Lu Guangming burst into laughter. He knew that Han Qian would never let him down, and his laughter became Han Qian's ally. The tranquilizer also made the Lin family passive once again. Feng Lun was staring at Wei Tiancheng. This is more dangerous than Han Qian staring at him. At this time Nuan smiled. Oh, Uncle Lin wants to bring back Director Wei? Then please hurry up and arrest Feng Lun by the way, so that my husband will not be in danger. After finishing his words, Luo Shen sat in front of his desk, holding his chin in one hand, narrowing his eyes and smiling. Now that Han Qian has said it, I won't pursue Kui Li's fault anymore. It's just one knife. Besides, he didn't want to kill me. It was another man who killed me. One phone call changed the entire situation. Hand Wei Tiancheng over to Lin Meng and others. That's the same as beating a bastard with a meat bun. Wouldn't he take the bun with him into the sea? Besides, if he wasn't absolutely sure, would Han Qian dare to play against this old bastard? Lin Men's face turned gloomy, he glared at Lu Guangming fiercely, then looked at Han Qian and growled. Han Qian. Someone has already taken the blame, and the video in your hand is useless. Han Qian stretched out a finger and shook it with the frequency of shaking his head. No, you just know that Ho Kong is dead, but you don't know that he died with injuries all over his body. He did commit suicide, but you don't know what he went through before he was alive. My words can make you. The city bureau will reinvestigate this case, and Ho Kong will take the blame. I think Boss Tu's younger brother is more knowledgeable about this. Besides, even if he is illegally imprisoned and beaten, it will only be a few years of imprisonment, and it is not a capital crime, right Tu boss? Tu Xiao laughed loudly. Of course, I am very experienced in this kind of thing. After finishing his words, Han Qian said. Mr. Lin, if this thing comes out, will Ho Kong take the blame for Wei Tiancheng? How big a disturbance do you think it will cause? You are an old man and have only been alive for a few years, but brother Zongheng is still young. Not married yet, right? Mr. Lin. Han Qian's smile fell like a little devil in Lin Men's eyes. He really had no choice. This Han Qian has grown so fast that it is difficult for him to deal with him. As long as Wei Tiancheng is still alive, Lin Men has no way to deal with Han Qian. Han Qian pointed to the documents on the ground and said calmly. Pick it up. Just as the person behind Lin Men was about to bend down, Lu Guangming shouted angrily. Did you move? Han Qian answered. Mr. Lin, I asked you to pick it up. Have no choice. Very helpless. Lin Men bent down to pick up the contract with a livid face. At this time, Yates stepped forward and took the contract away and handed it to Han Qian. Han Qian took the contract and tore it into pieces with a faint smile. I suddenly changed my mind. 103 is too little. I'm a very kind person, so let's take 104%. I'll only add 10%. It's not like you, the old man, would give it away to us in one bite. Lin Mend almost spit out a mouthful of old blood, pointed at Han Qian and gritted his teeth and said with trembling words. "Little beast, don't bully others too much." After the words came out, Suliang and Guan Yunbiao stood up at the same time, and the bodyguard behind Lin Mend was also ready to take action. Han Qian raised his left hand with a smile, and the two stepped back. Han Qian looked at Lin Mend with a smile and said with a smile, "You are right, old man. The number 4 does not mean a very good thing, so let's use 150%. You have brought so many people here, you must be able to eat, right? Do you need to borrow money? I can get a loan. I'll give you 3.5 billion, but I'm afraid you won't be able to pay it back." After saying this, Han Qian stood up and said coldly, "Yates, Poems, draft the contract, prepare to sign. When will I receive the money? When will I give them the surveillance video?" After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, A Huan. Chapter 652. No one blames Lin Mend, because shopping malls are like this. Bullshit friendships are no match for real money and silver. He wanted to get everything without spending money, but he never expected that Han Qian would kill Wei Tiancheng. Send it to Feng Lun. But even if Lin Mend knew where Feng Lun was, would he dare to call the police? Ask Lin Mend to lower his head and beg Han Qian to reduce the price by 20%? He knew this was impossible. What Han Qian was planning was the 20% profit. How could his grandson, who had been pretending for so long, give up so easily? It can be said that Han Qian has calculated all Lin Mend's thoughts, and also calculated that Niu Qiudong will definitely tell Lin Mend that the second monkey is guilty. But it was just a guess. Han Qian didn't know who specifically told Lin Mend. Lin Mend signed and pledged the goods, and the lawyer took photos and kept evidence. He handed over the money and delivered the goods. The huge transfer was divided into multiple banks and transferred to Nuan's account. Nuan immediately asked Yu Shixi to transfer the money to Wei Tiancheng to avoid long nights and dreams. The Lin family is gone. Arriving arrogantly and leaving angrily, Lin Zongheng kept his head down. He had caused the Lin family too much loss this time. Han Qian watched Nuan put away the contract, stretched out on the sofa, and yawned. Haha, the second step is over. The next step is for when Nuan and you start poaching people. There is no rush to deal with Changxiang now. After all, they are the leader of Binhai City and have decades of foundation. No, you will be defeated in a day or two. What you are doing now is to speed up the name change of Huishan Group and complete all the procedures. Luo Shanda will assist you in doing this. In addition, your hospital. Nuan looked at Yu Shixi, who had already taken out the document and handed it to Han Qian, saying softly, "Lin Zongheng has not been to the company recently. Nuan is in charge of all matters of the company. The hospital project was terminated last night. What is left is the handover work. We are not ready to give up on this hospital." Han Qian glanced at the document and said calmly, "Now that when Nuan has money, the hospital will become a burden to Changxiang. You go talk to the Yamanman about this matter and ignore Changxiang. Now your task is to restore Huishan to normal. Yates, forget it. Yes, Yates is going to help me recently. You guys can do some research. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Well, Yates, you can book a place and invite the big guys to come out in the evening to make it fun. If you can call everyone, everybody call me, it's a housewarming celebration." After saying this, Han Qian stood up, stretched out his hand, pinched his warm face, and said fondly, "Little Phoenix, this company belongs to you alone now, so you can do whatever you want." When Nuan looked at the document in his hand, thoughtfully, Han Qian thought that the girl had some obstacles in her heart. After asking, he found out that she was hungry. Seeing that it was almost 5 o'clock, Han Qian smiled and said that he would let them go to eat. We'll go later. This time Han Qian left without anyone. He went downstairs and drove to the Yamen gate alone in a warm car. On the way, Han Qian answered a phone call, and the other party apologized sincerely. Brother, I'm really sorry. The first call you made to me was that I made a mess of things. In a few days, your wife's company will be renamed and open. I will definitely give you a big gift. This guy's face is so slapped. It really hurts. Han Qian smiled. It's a small matter, but I was too abrupt. The first call was to ask you to come over and help me. When you come to Binhai, I'll be the host. I really want to go over there recently and prepare some northeastern specialties for you. Okay, let's meet and chat then. This man, Han Qian, didn't expect him to come today. It would be better if he came, but if he didn't come, the impact would not be great. Cheng Jin, who was at the Yamen gate, was about to pack up and get off work. He had already walked out of the door, but Han Qian blocked him back to the office. Cheng Jin put down the things in his hands, and the two chatted about Ho Kong. The point is that someone called Lin Men to inform him of the news. Cheng Jin was not surprised at all, took a glass of water and said calmly. Not everyone in the municipal bureau listens to Li Jinhai's command. How many people are eager to let him step down and take his place? Niu Qiudong is very sad about what happened recently, so he will naturally know about it, but you don't have to worry, the people outside I can't control the matter, but you'll still be fine in this 3/4 acre of land at the Yamen gate. As he spoke, he handed the water glass to Han Qian, who took it and drank it while frowning. Old man, do you think Feng's Haida will be forced to commit suicide to keep the secret because of the threats from Niu Qiudong and Lin Mend? Before he finished speaking, Cheng Jin kicked Han Qian's calf, frowning with a slightly dissatisfied look on his face. Don't talk nonsense about some things without evidence. Even if you want to say it, don't mention it by name. It will be a big trouble for you if people find out. First, tell me why Wei Tiancheng suddenly left the country. He was afraid of death and taking the same path as Feng's Haida. Han Qian's words were concise and to the point. Cheng Jin frowned and pointed at the window. The two walked to the window and Cheng Jin whispered. Talk about it? Han Qian held his hands on the windowsill and looked at Niu Qiudong, who was riding an electric scooter downstairs and left, and said calmly with narrowed eyes. I made such a big fuss this time because I wanted to test who was behind Wei Tiancheng. Unsurprisingly, it was Lin Mend. There is also one thing I have never told you. Wei Tiancheng and Feng Lun met. Before the incident, he gave Feng Lun 1 million, but I don't know what the money was used for or whose hands it ended up in. Also, Wei Tiancheng was very afraid of going to jail. Cheng Jin smiled after hearing this and said softly. Evidence of contact with Feng Lun was found in Ho Kong's home. Someone asked Wei Tiancheng to take the blame. Wei Tiancheng naturally asked others to take the blame. It was expected that Feng's Haida's death was indeed strange, but this cannot be considered evidence. The citizens of the city and the superiors have great trust in our diligent and thrifty secretary Niu. Let's talk about that piece of land first, whether you want it or not. If it's cheaper, I'll buy it for grazing cattle. Niu Qiudong stretched out 2 fingers to Han Qian. Han Qian smiled and snapped 1 finger back. Cheng Jin was furious and Han Qian smiled naively. Finally, Cheng Jin sighed helplessly. I hope you can contribute to the city's tourism industry. Use it to plan and negotiate the price. Buy the land first. I can't trust you, kid. I can't trust you either. At worst, I won't buy it. You can find someone else. Cheng Jin glared at Han Qian, and Han Qian glared at Cheng Jin. Then they both snorted at the same time, turned and walked towards the door. When they went out, Han Qian took the lead, but Cheng Jin grabbed him by the collar and threw him behind him. Get out of here, there are no rules. Han Qian punched Cheng Jin's back. Seeing Cheng Jin was about to go downstairs, Han Qian slapped his forehead. This slap almost killed him. He squatted on the ground and covered his head and shouted at Cheng Jin. "Old man, let's have dinner together tonight to show off your face." "No. 20 million, you can take the land. It can be discussed." Buy, can't I buy it? Besides, I'm asking you about someone." "Who?" "Zhao Hanqing. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor." Author, Ahuan. Chapter 653. It's raining again. Han Qian was afraid of rain now. Fortunately, the rain was very light, like fog. Han Qian drove Cheng Jin to the hotel Wenwen mentioned. The two stood side by side at the door of the hotel, raising their heads and looking at the most popular hotel in the city. Luxurious hotel. "See flower." Cheng Jin pinched his chin and said softly. "It's not cheap here. It can be said to be very expensive. I had the opportunity to be rated as a 5-star hotel in the past 2 years, but due to some accidents, I didn't succeed." Han Qian raised his head and said softly. "This accident must have something to do with you." "Haha, a little bit." An old man and a young man just stood at the main entrance of Shanghai Flower, looking at the hotel in the rain. The permanent secretary who came later ran over holding an umbrella, but was driven away by Han Qian. Go, go, go. The old man has been busy inside and outside for a month. He needs some rain to wake up." Chang De put away his umbrella, looked at Han Qian resentfully and whispered. "You are responsible for your illness. I have a VIP card for the hospital." The two of them just watched quietly. Cheng Jin was debating whether to go in or not. If he did, it wouldn't be that simple to leave. Han Qian, the little bastard who had no profit and couldn't afford to leave early, must be in trouble. Han Qian, on the other hand, was worried that Cheng Jin had escaped. Within a few minutes, the person in charge of the hotel ran over, holding a big umbrella in his hand to protect the two of them from the rain. He bent down and invited the two of them in. He couldn't afford to offend the big Buddha and the little bully, but these two, the individual was stunned and didn't move. Chang ran to a distance and squatted to smoke, ignoring these two abnormal guys. They had hundreds of thoughts this minute, which frightened Chang. Mr. Chang, why don't you go in, Uncle Chang?" Cai Qinghu and Wu Qingxi came hand in hand. They saw the two people standing here from a distance and got curious. Cheng Jin smiled lightly. "I wonder if I've fallen into a trap if I take this step." Han Qian smiled. "He wouldn't let me walk in front of him at the Yamen gate." Cai Qinghu raised his hand helplessly. "Okay. You two continue. I'm starving. I'll go up first." "Let's go, little carrots." Wu Qingxi bowed and saluted the two of them, and then followed Cai Qinghu into the hotel. Cheng Jin struggled for a while and said calmly. "Do you know this Zhao Hanqing?" Han Qian shrugged and said calmly. "We met by chance. Qinghu told me that he was very powerful in the Northeast." "It is indeed very powerful. My biological father is on the same level as Li Jinhan, and the gold content is higher than Li Jinhan. Calculating, our Binhai city combined may not be enough for him." "It is not right. You can say this a year ago. After all, 1 year before, you, Lin Zongheng, Feng Lun, and Lu Shenga were not in Binhai city. I don't recommend that you get too close to him. The children in the military compound are all thieves. It's good to be fair weather friends. If you want to get to know me, you can give him a call. Don't. I'm really a little discouraged after hearing what you said. Let's go in. I'm too lazy to talk to Tu Xiao." Cheng Jin finally moved, which made Tu Xiao, who got off the car and was about to say hello, a little embarrassed, but he could only endure it. He and Li Jinhai could scold each other, but he still felt a little guilty when facing Cheng Jin. The two walked into the box. This box was beyond Han Qian's expectation. The room was more than 100 square meters, and a table could accommodate nearly 30 people. At this time, Gao Xingcheng was singing Brother with his arms around Sun Yu's waist. I really want to live another 500 years. This is all nonsense. He doesn't care about the guests in other rooms. In fact, he doesn't need to care. Except for Lin Men's group today, the people in this room are enough to shake the entire Binhai city. Luo Shanda, who was holding the microphone and preparing to continue singing, panicked when he saw Cheng Jin standing at the door. His legs felt a little weak, and he ran over in fright, bending down and saying flattery. Mayor Cheng, why are your clothes wet? Xiao Wu, stop squealing and go get the towel. Cheng Jin chuckled. Director Luo, the nightlife is very rich. Cheng Jin's words made Luo Shanda wish he could hang himself with a rope. Wu Sijuan and Yates wiped the rain off Cheng Jin's shoulders with towels, and Cheng Jin chuckled. I'll come over for a quick lunch. You guys can continue. I'm not at the Yamen gate. I'm off work. I'm a normal person, but Director Luo needs to be careful about the impact. Yes, 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 Mayor Cheng, you taught me a lesson. Han Qian suppressed a smile and looked at Luo Shanda. The next second, Cheng Jin's hand appeared behind his head. He thought about it for a while. When Cheng Jin walked forward, everyone was busy coming to say hello. None of them expected that Han Qian would actually "Can you invite this giant Buddha over?" But if you think about it carefully, you will know that it is no secret that Lin Men and Niu Qiudong are on good terms. Why did Han Qian invite Cheng Jin here? Isn't it just to give everyone a reassurance? Seeing that everyone was a little cautious, Han Qian stepped forward and smiled. What are you doing? Why are you so nervous? The old man doesn't eat people. It seems that there are still people who haven't come over. Let me sing a song to warm you up. Let me take a look. This song is The Temptation of the Wolf. At this point, Han Qian suddenly didn't dare to continue. This was a love song duet. He turned his head mechanically and looked at the three girls, Wen Nuan, Cai Qinghu, and Nursery Rhyme, and then looked at everyone with joking eyes. Looking at him, Han Qian scratched his head and laughed. My voice is not so good today. Before he finished speaking, he didn't know who clicked the start button. Han Qian turned around to look for the second person. When he saw the microphone in Luo Shen's hand, Han Qian wanted to die and didn't dare to look at the three girls. Wrong. It was the murderous gazes of many girls. But the arrow is already on the bow, so there is no reason not to shoot. While Han Qian and Luo Shen were singing, Yan Qingqing and Ji Jing came holding hands. There was Qian Ling beside them. They all came to support Wen Wen tonight and sincerely wished Wen Wen. However, Yan Qingqing was more impatient. She stepped forward, grabbed Han Qian's ear and dragged him outside the box. Then everyone heard Han Qian's screams, with a warm face and an indifferent expression, and whispered to the waiter at the door. Serve. At the dinner table, people gathered together in twos and threes to chat. I don't know what Yates and Nuan were talking about. They were talking and laughing. Han Qian's right-hand man was Aunt Ji and Tanjeo. They didn't care who was at the table and they would get into an argument when serving Han Qian's food. At around 9 o'clock in the evening, Cheng Jin proposed to leave first. Everyone was ready to leave after they had had enough wine and food. Han Qian and Wen Nuan were seeing off the guests in the box. When everyone left, Ji Jing came to Han Qian and whispered. Go to my house. Han Qian's eyes widened for a moment, and then he smiled innocently like a crazy brother. Just when he was about to agree, Tong Yao suddenly appeared behind the two of them and whispered. Where are you two going? Han Qian turned his head, Ji Jing took Han Qian's hand and said again. Ignore her. Nursery Rhyme narrowed her eyes like a fox, and she suddenly shouted loudly. What? Han Qian, are you going to stay at Aunt Ji's house tonight? As soon as these words came out, Han Qian wanted to kill this woman. Don't you throw me into the execution ground for the grudge between you and Ji Zheng? Then Han Qian slowly turned his head and saw all the girls staring at him. Han Qian panicked, scratched his head and laughed. Error. Teacher Tong, go to my house. Ji Jing spoke first and took Tanjeo away. This time Tanjeo panicked and said quickly. No, 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 I have something to do when I get home. No, you're not busy. Leave me alone. We must have a good talk tonight. The nursery rhyme was dragged away. As soon as Han Qian was about to leave, someone grabbed his ears. When Nuan on the left and Yan Qingqing on the right said in unison. You're not going anywhere. Go home. Hey. Go home, go home. When they walked downstairs, they saw Tong Yao standing at the door of the car and refusing to go in. Then Ji Jing kicked her into the car. This scene surprised everyone, and they also knew that Ji Jing was really angry this time. There was no objection to touching the nursery rhyme, and then everyone understood it after thinking about it. After all, Tong Yao and Ji Jing lived together for a while. Nursery rhyme will definitely not have an easy time tonight, and her motor nerves will be taken care of by Ji Jing riding under her. Han Qian took a deep breath. Go home. Pa. Han Qian. Yates and Wu Qingxi stared at Han Qian coldly. Han Qian awkwardly raised his arm on their shoulders, and then trotted into the car. After returning home, Han Qian got into the guest room and went to sleep, ignoring Yan Qingqing who had followed him back. He was worried that the two girls would ask about what happened between him and Ji Zheng. Nuan and Yan Qingqing also had a tacit understanding. They changed clothes, took a bath and went to bed. On the same bed, the custom order for the second bedroom has not yet been delivered. While he was drifting off to sleep, his cell phone rang, and there was a sound coming from the phone, a moaning sound, and Han Qian gritted his teeth angrily and said angrily. What's wrong with you? Ha 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 ha, good night. The monster hung up the phone directly. Now Han Qian couldn't sleep anymore. He tossed and turned, staring at the roof with wide eyes. He didn't fall asleep until almost dawn. Han Qian had already decided before going to bed. Tong Yao must be caught and beaten up. She definitely did it on purpose. At the same time, Han Qian felt that Tong Yao had changed, and he couldn't explain the unexplained change. Awakened by Yan Qingqing early in the morning, Han Qian squinted at Yan Qingqing lying on top of him, stretched out his hand to ruffle her short silver hair, and said lazily. Why are you up so early? I'm taking a nap and taking today off. Yan Qingqing pecked Han Qian's lips, then narrowed her eyes and smiled, opened her mouth and bit Han Qian's chest. Han Qian sat up with a cry of pain, glared at Yan Qingqing with wide eyes, and then held Yan Qingqing down. He bit her on the chest, causing the woman to moan. Han Qian got up and ran away. Yan Qingqing was lying on the bed with an enchanting figure and shouted softly. You won't be given a day off today. You have to go to the company with me. You don't have to look for warmth. She has gone to work. Well, you can pack your lunch if you will be late for the company. After finishing her words, Yan Qingqing rubbed the softness on her chest and cursed in a low voice. Straight men show no mercy at all. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 654. Han Qian returned to work, and the atmosphere in the general department became active again. Everyone was worried about Han Qian when they heard that he was injured. When he arrived at the company at noon, Yang Lan put the thermos bucket on Han Qian's desk and said softly. I know you haven't had breakfast, and I know you like dumplings. Don't run away after dinner. I'll prepare some medicine for you to take at noon. Han Qian opened the thermos bucket, took out a dumpling and threw it into his mouth, frowning and saying coquettishly, "Sister Yang, can you not take medicine?" Yang Lan reached out and pinched Han Qian's cheek, narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Take your medicine and I won't beat you." "Why?" "I can't resist." Lu Zhuolong looked at Yang Ian's treatment of Han Qian and felt extremely envious. Then he had a plan in mind, and he lay on the table with a cry and cried out, "Ah! Lan Lan, I'm sick. I also need to take medicine." Yang Lan took a deep breath, and then shouted to Sul Yang, "Liang take Deputy Lu to the hospital for an operation." After saying this, Yao Shui raised her hands and shouted softly, "Circumcision. Cut one, get one free." Everyone in the general department burst into laughter. Lu Zhuolong glared at Yao Shui and whispered, "Get out." Then he continued to moan in pain. "Ah! Lan Lan, I have a disease that won't get better if you don't feed me medicine." Yang Lan said helplessly. "Then you are sick and I will give you a note of leave." "Don't. I'm fine, I'm alive and well." Everyone laughed again, and Lu Zhuolong also followed. He and Han Qian had some conflicts in the past. After a long time, everyone realized that Lu Zhuolong was really a good big brother. Han Qian even knew that he had cut his salary to preserve the complex. Everyone in the department. He didn't get angry when he was joking, and he didn't stalk Yang Lan when he was pursuing her. In his words, he was very satisfied just sitting here, watching quietly and saying a few words. Han Qian smiled and ate the dumplings one by one. This time, no one came to grab them. Instead, they brought a lot of snacks. Even little Yang Jia brought a bunch of snacks over and sat next to Han Qian and held them tightly. Holding Han Qian's hand, he choked with tears. "Brother, you can't get hurt again in the future. If you are gone one day, Mr. Yan will have no choice but to scold me. You must live." "Ah! I'm alive, I'm alive." While ignoring Xiao Yangjia, Han Qian wanted to eat a few chocolate bars on the table. He didn't know why, but he saw that the chocolate bars were delicious. But Yangjia refused to let go of Han Qian's hand and continued to choke. "Brother Qian, promise me." Yeah, I promise you, let me go first." "Don't let go." "What are you doing?" "I'm afraid you'll eat my snacks, and I'll feel bad." Han Qian smiled, narrowed his eyes and smiled. "You didn't want me to eat it at all, right? You thought I would tell you to take it back, in that case." "Brothers and sisters, Xiao Yangjia is treating me today, you're welcome, Shan Shan, Sister Shui, Mr. Lu, you can also try it, taste and live close to young people." Seeing the snacks being shared, Xiao Yangjia stood up and said angrily, "Han Qian, go to hell." Han Qian narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Look behind you." Xiao Yangjia was about to run away without turning her head. Yang Lan reached out and grabbed Xiao Yangjia's back collar, pinched her hard in the mouth and said angrily, "You're talking nonsense. I slapped you. Get out." Then Yang Lan handed the medicine to Han Qian, and Han Qian reached out to take it. Yang Lan shook his head and said calmly, "I heard from a few girls that you know how to hide when you take medicine, just open your mouth." Watching Yang Lan feeding Han Qian medicine, Lu Zhuolong's eyes turned red with envy. After taking the medicine, Yang Lan left the general department and told them to be more honest when going out. But as soon as Yang Lan left, Han Qian he let himself go and shouted to Qian Wan, "Big money, come on. Let's play games." The Lin family and his son were sitting together. Now that Wen Nuan has left Changxiang, they hold more than 50% of the shares. Not only that, some shareholders have also withdrawn their shares and are preparing to leave with Wen Wen. This is what everyone expected. People in the Wen party will be taken away by the warmth. Staying in Changxiang will make their lives very sad, but the departure of these people has also brought trauma to Changxiang. Wei Tianchen was taken away from the hotel he rented to Nuan at first. Now everyone in the company is preparing to leave, leaving a lot of mess without anyone to deal with it. The most important thing is that the hospital has come to a standstill. People who know how to operate the hospital have been taken away by the warmth. Some doctors and nurses who were planning to stay in the hospital suddenly broke their contracts. If the hospital is left here, it will lose a lot of investment. Because of Han Qian and Nuan's series of actions, Changxiang had a problem. Funds are broken. 27% of the shares is not a small amount, and coupled with the withdrawal of other people's shares, Lin Zongheng's commercial investment in the first half of the year, Changxiang has already entered a situation where it cannot make ends meet. The hospital planning is only halfway through now. If Changxiang doesn't take action to develop the city's tourism industry this time, it won't be justified in Niuqiudong. Moreover, Changxiang has already participated in the party held by the Yamanmen. Lin Zongheng never thought that one day he would be in trouble for money. He raised his head and said softly, "No one is spying on the 27% of the shares you got. We can sell some first." Lin Mend raised his head, glared at Lin Zongheng, and said coldly, "If you do this, you will fall into that little beast's trap. Who will buy it if it is sold at 150%? If the price is lowered, Luo Shen will immediately inject funds to purchase these shares, son. You have to be more ruthless in doing things, if this time you are ruthless enough." At this point, Lin Men sighed and said softly, "Actually, I don't blame you this time. It's because Go Depeo is so useless. He failed to kill Han Qian, a little beast. You don't have to worry about money. You are going to take over the company. Don't make any mistakes." Lin Zongheng stood up and roared. "Then we are willing to suffer this dumb loss? I am not willing to accept it. Now the funds are broken and the company has many projects that need investment. If you ask me to return to the company, what can I do? Dad, why not sell Swan Lake?" Lin Mend raised his head and glanced at his son, sighing feebly. Now he is also in a dilemma. As long as Changxiang dares to sell, Han Qian will dare to accept it. Even though this little beast has nothing, his advantages are everywhere. Luoshan, Qianling, and Cai Qinghu are supporting him. He dared to accept everything he enjoyed. Now there is some money in the company's accounts, but once this money is invested in the project, the development of the back mountain of Yezai Pavilion will have to withdraw. But how will it be explained to the Yamanmen after withdrawing? Taking the shares in Nuan's hand has left Lin Mend with nowhere to get money. Maybe Lin Zongheng's suggestion was right, sell the hospital first, but Swan Lake cannot be sold. Swan Lake is the face of enjoyment. Lin Mend said calmly as he walked up the stairs. Isn't the military world just trying not to lose money? Sell the military world and the hospital first, and get the money to invest in your hotel and tourism development. Yes. The Lin family has no other choice. Not only that, they don't want the shares in the hands of these withdrawing shareholders to flow into the hands of others. Lin Zongheng, who had left home, could not figure out why it became so difficult for him in just 1 month. His plan was perfect. The blame for all this was on the loser Go Depeo. If you killed Luo Shen first, how could there be such a thing? What a hassle. In fact, Lin Zongheng was naive. Even if Luo Shen died, Han Qian's plan would not change at all. He would just replace Luo Shen with Cai Qinghu during the conversation. Lin Zongheng was unwilling to give in and took out his mobile phone to call Lu Shenga. "Eunuch, are you just going to watch Han Qian become bigger and stronger? Now that he is strong, neither of us will have a good life." On the phone, Lu Shenga smiled lightly. "Become bigger? Become stronger? Glory is just my plaything. My brother and Han Qian are not on bad terms. In the end, at worst, I will die. It's just that your Lin family seems to be in trouble now. Do you need a loan? I'll lend you 200 million a year. Give me back 250 million, forget it. I won't borrow it anymore, you two can't beat Han Qian alone. Lin Zongheng gritted his teeth and spoke fiercely. If I fall, you will be next. Lu Shenga sneered. Me? You. Stop making trouble, compare me to you. I beg you to kill me, Lin Zongheng. If you can still come up with any tricks, I don't mind helping you. I don't hope the opponent is too weak, that would be boring. Lin Zongheng hung up the phone, his heart almost bursting. Eunuch, mad dog. I will kill you too sooner or later. Lin Zongheng took a deep breath and made another call. Lin Zongheng adjusted his state and chuckled. Director Yang, do you have time? There has been some good business in Binhai City recently. Lin Zongheng also began to follow Han Qian's lead in finding allies. But at this time, Han Qian didn't pay attention to the Lin family's actions. He came to Tongyu's school and stood at the school gate yelling into the phone. If you don't come out today, I'll go in and beat you up. What about Lin Zongheng, what about Lu Shenga? My biggest enemy now is the monster Tanjio. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 655. What are you yelling about? You're holding a golden cudgel. What are you going to do? It seems that nursery rhyme's dress has never strayed from the word conservative. If she hadn't been taller, this skirt would have dragged the floor. But she was wearing a pair of slippers. Han Qian looked at nursery rhyme hiding in the door, and then looked down. He glanced at the golden girl in his hand and whispered. Bought it at the school gate. Oh, then give it to me. Don't change the subject for me, come out. Do you know that I didn't sleep well last night? And now you are venting to me? Mr. Han Qian, I am not your girlfriend and I have no obligation to sleep with you. Duan. A stick was struck on the iron door. Han Qian was holding onto the iron door with one hand, and the other had already passed through the gap in the iron door, waving the stick in his hand at nursery rhymes and said angrily. Then you made trouble for me last night? Then you called me and you were not a human being. When? Tongyao closed her eyes and took a deep breath, then suddenly snatched the plastic golden cudgel from Han Qian's hand and beat him on the arm. Han Qian was beaten so hard that he stepped back and shouted 2 meters away from the iron gate. I have injuries on my arms. I have injuries all over my body, and you hit me. Nursery rhyme said angrily. You knew you had a wound on your arm and you still had to go to Jijing's place? Can you control yourself? What if your wound suddenly burst open while the two of you were doing that? Are you going to die? The shouts of the two people have aroused the curiosity of the onlookers, but do these two people care about this? Han Qian waved his hand impatiently. You don't have to worry about me, just give me the golden cudgel. You think I am willing to take care of you, go ahead. Go and continue to seek death, and I will give you back the broken stick. The thrown stick hit Han Qian's face. Han Qian covered his face and squatted on the ground, cursing in a low voice. You monster, you and I. Before he finished speaking, Han Qian was stunned when he looked at the nursery rhyme with reddish eyes. He panicked. What he was most afraid of was women crying. He couldn't coax him if he was anxious. Han Qian stood up and scratched his head in embarrassment, and whispered. Look, aren't I kidding you? Tanjio glared at Han Qian and said angrily. I don't like you joking with me. I don't want to see you again. You are a scumbag, a straight man, and you are mentally ill. Han Qian, you deserve to be hurt. You only know that you are good to others, but you never accept others. I'm so worried about you. I don't want to see you anymore. I want to go back to Sichuan and Binhai City. I don't want to be here for a minute anymore. As he spoke, the monster opened the door and ran away. She wants to go back to Sichuan? Han Qian was confused. The monster seemed to have disappeared after returning to his hometown last time. Watching Tong Yao drive away, Han Qian's heart suddenly felt empty. Looking at Tong Yao's car, his eyes were slightly confused. Others treat him well. Han Qian didn't understand the meaning of this sentence. He knew the kindness of others to him. Why did the nursery rhyme say this sentence? He squatted at the door of the school with his back to the door and looked at the sky. He didn't chase it. Now the nursery rhyme is in anger. If he chases it, it will only make the monster angrier. Standing up and walking into the school security guard nodded to Han Qian and did not stop him. He walked all the way to the principal's office on the 4th floor. The door was open. There was a pair of high heels with broken heels on the windowsill. Han Qian reached out and took them. I found that there was still some residual heat. He smiled. Why are you so urgent? Did you break your heel while running? Putting down his shoes and walking forward, Han Qian looked at the simple office without even a computer. It was really simple here, with a cement floor, big white walls, an old desk and a chair that was peeling. Han Qian sighed again, whisper quietly. Why are you saving so much? I won't deny it to you. For nursery rhymes, what Han Qian carries on his shoulders is not love, no emotion, only responsibility. He took away the nursery rhyme's virginity and gave it to this woman for the first time. There would be a thread in his heart that connected the two of them. Even though he was drugged, Han Qian still had a deep impression of that night. Han Qian is a money-splitting boy, but every money he gives away has a purpose, or to return a favor, including the R8 in Qinghu and Jijing's house. Han Qian wants to squander his ill-gotten gains. Lose. The only money given to Tong Yao was what Han Qian thought he had earned with peace of mind, and it was also the cleanest thing he considered. It had no purpose, and he did not intend to repay or compensate her. He just wanted to give her money. Han Qian had seen Tong Yao look like when he asked him to borrow money. Han Qian admitted that he was a scumbag. He clearly would not marry Tong Yao, but he did not want her to get together with other men, let alone borrow money from other people, including Wen Nuan and Yan Qingqing. Han Qian laughed self-deprecatingly, waved his hand and slapped himself. Why can't she let this happen? She has no parents or relatives in the city. If you count, Han Qian is the person closest to her. Thinking of what she said at the school gate, the nursery rhyme was right. Han Qian's injuries were not healed. None of the scars on his body had healed. The new injuries had not been more than 48 hours old. She was not deliberately destroying Han Qian and Jijing's solitude, but she knew that Han Qian and Jijing had already broken through that step. And this step was also Tan Jiao's plan. She forced Jijing to take this step. Looking at the documents on the desktop, he reached out and took one. It's the accounts. I remember every account clearly, even the bag of salt money in the cafeteria. The characters of the nursery rhyme are very beautiful, just like her name, which is square and straight, not a warm continuous stroke, not a wild cursive of Yan Qingqing. Very clean font. He remembered the bill clearly and calculated the cents. Han Qian found this office bill. The table was set at the second-hand market for 150 yuan. The chairs were bought together with the table for 20 yuan. A wheel was bought for 3 yuan. Han Qian lowered his head and looked at the chair on the chair and the others. The silver wheel is incompatible with the black wheel. I bought and installed this monster myself. She is very frugal and counts every penny spent on the car. 5 yuan a month for gas for a Maserati? Han Qian didn't know how she drove this car, and she had never heard of nursery rhymes about sending the car for cleaning, but her car was always clean. A diligent and thrifty girl. After putting down the bill, Han Qian called Wu Sijuan and asked Wu Sijuan to choose the furniture in her store and redecorate the nursery rhymes office. Wu Sijuan, who had done half of her nails, left the little boy with a creamy face whom she had just met for a day to prepare. The little boy was very dissatisfied that the man's phone call made Wu Siguan so serious. He chased Wu Siguan and said coquettishly, "Si Guan, whose phone number is it? We made an appointment to have lunch together." Wu Sijuan took out his wallet, took out 500 yuan and gave it to the little boy, saying anxiously, "I don't have time to explain to you, just go and eat by yourself, be good." After saying this, Wu Sijuan went out to drive to prepare. She knew her role very well. Han Qian said that if she did it well and quickly, she would not be kicked out of the team. The jealous little boy was already extremely jealous. He took a taxi and followed Wu Siguan. In the principal's office, Han Qian smoked a lot of cigarettes. He saw the nursery rhymes diary, a very old diary with a small lock. Han Qian was very curious about the diary, so he roughly opened the lock and opened the first diary entry. July 11th, sunny. The students in the school got into a fight and the parents were invited. I thought it was just a normal thing, but I met a gangster, a playboy who looked at people and animals as harmless. He always said some evil things, and I couldn't explain him. But she taught the old witch a lesson, and Keixen and I were right. The nursery rhyme is right, the evil dragon will eventually be punished. I don't want to see him anymore. I hate people named Han. Looking at the drawing at the end of a roaring little rabbit holding a big carrot, Han Qian smiled. This should be the first time he met nursery rhyme. It was very unpleasant, and it was also at this time that nursery rhyme started writing a diary. July 15th, sunny. I was fired and unhappy. July 25th, sunny. I found a new job. August 1st, heavy rain. I didn't look at the almanac when I went out, but I met a guy I didn't want to meet. I took the same car to school. I hated the smell of tobacco. I hated this ungentleman man. He gave me a handful, umbrella. The look of escaping in embarrassment is really refreshing. At the end of the diary, there is no time and weather, and there are no scattered things recorded in it. It only records things related to Han Qian, including an encounter in District 8, a quarrel with Tu Xiao at the dinner table, and going home. I was very scared in the end, but I felt at ease with this man by my side, but I didn't expect that he was actually a member of the underworld and was trying to block me. There were many things that Han Qian didn't know. For example, Tong Yao saw him and said hello, but he didn't notice. The diary slowly turned into an album filled with pictures of two girls and a little bunny. Han Qian looked at the diary quietly and forgot to remember to smoke. On a page smeared with colored pens, this is the record of Han Qian's first injury. Someone recorded the first time she borrowed money from Han Qian, and also recorded the first time she regarded Han Qian as a scumbag. Because of Yu Shisai sneaking into the bedroom. When Han Qian saw the folded page, he suddenly stopped what he was doing. He knew what was recorded on the page, but he didn't dare to open it. At this moment, Wu Sijuan called. "Brother Qianer, I'm at the school gate. I'll go down to pick you up. The security guard won't open the door for you." He left the principal's office with the diary and saw Wu Sijuan at the door of the school. Looking at the office supplies on the minivan, Han Qian nodded with satisfaction, picked up the diary and knocked Wu Sijuan on the forehead, smiling. "Don't be so hasty next time. It's not a big deal. Look at how exhausted I am." Wu Siguan raised his head and said with a smile, "I must work hard to do what Brother Qianer told me. For example, you were very attentive when Nursery Yao asked you for aphrodisiacs to drug me." Wu Sijuan's smile suddenly froze on her face, and Han Qian knocked on her forehead again and said softly, "There won't be a next time." The intimate movements between the two were clearly seen by the little boy. His jealousy had already welled up in his heart. He rushed forward and grabbed Han Qian's wrist and said viciously, "Who are you?" Han Qian was stunned for a moment, then frowned and said softly, "My wrist is injured, young man, please let go first." "Are you injured or not?" "I am not." Snapped. A crisp slap fell on the little boy's face. He was stunned, his eyes filled with disbelief. Then there was another slap, and Wu Siquan screamed and roared. "Let me go. Baby, I'm just worried about you. Go home and worry about your mother, he is my boss." The little boy in the cream hurriedly let go of his hand. Wu Siquan was so anxious that he almost cried. He held Han Qian's reddish wrist with both hands and suddenly turned his head to look at the little boy in the cream and said coldly, "If you appear in front of me from now on, I will break your limbs, get out." Then he said tremblingly, "Brother Qian, your wrist." It hurts a little, but it shouldn't be a big deal, Sigwan. Take care of your people, and being arrogant is not a good thing. I won't do it next time."